high intensity, endlessly replayable, and extremely addictive are all words I want to use to describe this new mode that's been recently added to Panzer Corps 2. Creating that endless mode is no easy feat for developers, and oftentimes it leads to failure more than it leads to success. Instead of making a mode that's completely new and original, developers will often look to other successful titles that have that endless, replayable, and extremely fun and addicting mode. And when a new and innovative mode comes along, it doesn't just stay in one game. It redefines the whole gaming space and eventually becomes a genre within itself. Every single person here should be able to name a few of those games. We have hero shooters, mil sims, survival games, MOBAs. All of those originated from one innovative game mode, not a game itself. By now you're asking yourself, what do all those games have to do with Panzer Corps 2? Well, Panzer Corps 2 just released a massive update that contains 3 chess maps. That's right, you heard it, chess maps. High intensity, endless replayable, and extremely addicting maps. Well, that's not my current opinion on them, but in this video, I'm going to provide you with my first impressions of what I think about these 3 new maps and this new mode that's been added to Panzer Corps 2. Before we get started, if you enjoy military strategy, tactics, and doctrine and like seeing applied to strategy games, then I guarantee you're in the right place, so make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I want you to know that Panzer Corps 2 is one of the first games that got me right back into wargaming. So it does hold a bit of a special place in my heart, so I'm really excited to check out these modes and provide you with the first impressions of them. Now it's time for the basics. This new game mode, the chess game mode, added 3 new maps. Each map is fundamentally different from the previous. They are 1v1, and every player is going to have an identical force. So the Germans and the Russians will have matching forces, just different weapon systems. The names of the 3 maps are the Cross, Struggle for Oasis, and Attack at the Airport. At this moment in time, there's not really a memorable map. There's not a map that I always want to go to and play over and over again because it's super fun. However, Struggle for Oasis does stand out a bit more than the other 2 maps. Although I haven't played Attack at the Airport, but I have played the Cross extensively, and it is an extremely challenging map, and it's going to make anyone, both new and old, sweat and struggle to understand the mechanics of the game, as well as understand this new game mode. One thing that strikes me a bit odd about Oasis, though, is how there's a 3rd enemy in the middle of the map, and it currently has a bunker as well as several landmines. And it brings me a bit of pause because it makes me assume that the developers aren't quite sure which direction to take this new chess mode yet. The maps are balanced though. That's the one good thing about this new mode. Basically, the terrain is identical for both players. The fighting forces are identical for both players. They are different factions though, and I'm not sure how much the different factions weigh in on who's more powerful, but overall, everyone seems to be basically identical, and it's all going to come down to who knows how to play the game better, who plays better tactics, and overall, it's a fairly well-balanced game mode, almost perfectly balanced, and I'm not quite sure how to approach it yet, because there are a lot of units on the battlefield at this moment in time, and it does feel extremely congested. Mostly because your hexes end up crashing into each other, and you kind of need to figure a way around the units, or you need to understand basic mechanics of how Panzer Corps works to route, break, and destroy units effectively and quickly. If you take a look at both mine and my players' formations in these upcoming clips and this current clip, you'll see that our force layout is basically the same, and the way we're approaching each objective is almost identical. We have tanks backed up with artillery, with infantry on the flanks, we've reconned to avoid ambushes, and then we even have our heavy artillery trying to route and support a position. Initially, this felt really boring to me, and that could be because I'm a relatively newer player or a bit of a beginner player, so seeing our layout almost identical was a bit concerning to me, because then you currently just have 2 opposing forces that are just going to wear each other down over the next 3 or 4 turns. And maybe that's how the developers want the game to be played, or maybe it's just my lack in understanding Panzer Corps 2's mechanics. I was wondering if I could split units and attempt to flank, but those cliffs on Oasis make the flanks impossible. You can't really get your flame troops into those trees, so it's kind of difficult to figure out what you want to do. You also can't reposition your units at the start of the game, so everyone has the same exact layout at the start as well. although you can force march your units to get into those hills rather quickly, but you'll be burning some of your points if that's something you wanted to do. I imagine once you have a better understanding of how the mechanics work, this game mode will be extremely fun and intense to play. And hopefully it doesn't just boil down to getting to one spot first, like the hillsides first with a force march, and then just setting up your tanks first and just destroying the enemy and then immediately setting up for a flank. Hopefully those kinds of tactics are easily counterable, but that is something that stood out to me. Also, the NPCs may not be necessary in the map. They are interesting and maybe they lead to more points that allow you to do more tactics, but it's just something that I thought was a bit concerning. Now we're going to go into my opinion on both the game mode, Panzer Corps 2, and whether or not I think this game mode should be in the game, or at least is going to redefine how Panzer Corps is going to be played. So let's just start off with the bad, because I think that's the most important. I wish these maps were playable in single player. 100% these maps have a place in single player, even for the player just to learn the maps or learn how the mechanics work or how they're meant to be played. Single player is what these maps need. Right, it's trying to capitalize on the chess craze that's going on right now, but there's no bots for the player to play against, and it's play by email. While play by email is extremely convenient, it also leads to a lot of boredom, at least on my end, where you constantly send a turn and then they reply to you at 1 in the morning, and then you reply at 9 a.m., and then they reply at 6 p.m., and overall it takes you around 3 days to play through a 10-turn match, which is much faster than like a 2 or 3 week long combat mission or flashpoint campaign game. I would also like for them to settle on like a particular map and just really refine the game mode on that particular map. I think that's really what they need to be doing. They shouldn't be adding like 17 different chess maps. They should really settle down on one really good map with really good mechanics and a really good layout, and just that map's going to allow for a lot of strategies to unfold. So maybe that's what they're doing with these 3 maps. Maybe it's not what they're doing, but that's what I would like to see. And what the game mode really needs is a time limit and a server. Just put some people on a server, 1v1, put a time limit of 10 minutes, just like in chess, and just let players battle it out in that small time frame and really test these maps, because I do think there is a place in Panzer Corps and even in strategy gaming for these maps, or at least this game mode. And we're going to close this video out by talking about the positives, because there are a lot of positives to this chess mode. If they decide to go the route of just adding a bunch of maps, then I really see this game mode prospering at the same time. If we think about the Pacific that's coming along, we could do some small little island hopping maps, and you could really create some interesting strategic situations. And honestly, this is a major step forward for the wargaming genre in general, because oftentimes developers create these long 45-minute 3-month-long campaigns, and it really drains on the player, or at least it drains me. So I feel like these small, tight-knit, highly tactical, highly strategic game modes can be a lot of fun, and they will find their player base if they're implemented correctly. So hopefully that's what we get. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe, guys, and let me know what you think of these new chess maps. Peace.